horror. He pointed to the man's bare chest and spoke rapidly in his native tongue. Garcia's brow wrinkled. What about the tattoo? The blue and red dyes were mostly geometric shapes, crimson circles, vibrant squiggles, and jagged triangles. But in the center and radiating out was a serpentine spiral of red, like blood swirling down a drain. A single blue handprint lay at its center, just above the man's navel. "Shawara!" Hanaue exclaimed, backing toward the door. Evil spirits. Garcia glanced back to his assistant. He had thought the tribesmen had grown past these superstitious beliefs. "Enough," he said harshly. "It's only paint. It's not the devil's work. Now come help me." Hanaue merely shook in terror and would approach no closer. Frowning, Garcia returned his attention to his patient as the man groaned. His eyes were glassy with fever and delirium. He thrashed weakly on the sheets. Garcia checked the man's forehead. It burned. He swung back to Hanaue. "At least fetch the first aid kit for me and the penicillin in the fridge." With clear relief, the Indian dashed away. Garcia sighed. Having lived in the Amazonian rainforest for a decade, he had out of necessity learned basic medical skills, setting splints, cleaning and applying salves to wounds, treating fevers. He could even perform simple operations like suturing wounds and helping with difficult births. As the padre of the mission, he was not only the primary guardian of their souls, but also counselor, chief, and doctor. Garcia removed the man's soiled clothes and set them aside. As his eyes roved over the man's exposed skin, he could clearly see how sorely the unforgiving jungle had ravaged his body. Maggots crawled in his deep wounds. Scaly fungal infections had eaten away the man's toenails, and a scar in his heel marked an old snakebite. As he worked, the padre wondered who this man was. What was his story? Did he have family out there somewhere? But all attempts to speak to the man were met only with a garbled, delirious response. Many of the peasants who tried to eke out a living met hard ends at the hands of hostile Indians, thieves, drug traffickers, or even jungle predators. But the most common demise of these settlers was disease. In the remote wilds of the rainforest, medical attention could be weeks away. A simple flu could bring death. The scuff of feet on wood drew Garcia's attention back to the door. Hanaue had returned, burdened with the medical kit and a pail of clean water. But he was not alone. At Hanaue's side stood Kamala, a short, white-haired Shapuri, the tribal shaman. Hanaue must have run off to fetch the ancient medicine man. "Hiya," Garcia greeted the fellow. "Grandfather." It was the typical way to acknowledge a Yanomamo elder. Kamala did not say a word. He simply strode into the room and crossed to the bed. As he stared down at the man, his eyes narrowed. He turned to Hanaue and waved for the Indian to place the bucket and medical kit down. The shaman then lifted his arms over the bedridden stranger and began to chant. Garcia was fluent in many indigenous dialects, but he could not make out a single word. Once done, Kamala turned to the padre and spoke in fluent Portuguese. "This Nabe has been touched by the Shawara, dangerous spirits of the deep forest. He will die this night. His body must be burned before sunrise." With these words, Kamala turned to leave. "Wait, tell me what this symbol means." Turning back with a scowl, Kamala said, "It is the mark of the Ban Ali tribe, blood jaguars. He belongs to them. None must give help to a Ban Yi, the slave of the jaguar. It is death." The shaman made a gesture to ward against evil spirits, blowing across his fingertips, then left with Hanaue in tow. Alone in the dim room, Garcia felt a chill in the air that didn't come from the air conditioning. He had heard whispers of the Ban Ali, one of the mythic ghost tribes of the deep forest, a frightening people who mated with jaguars and possessed unspeakable powers. Garcia kissed his crucifix and cast aside these fanciful superstitions. Turning to the bucket and medicines, he soaked a sponge in the tepid water and brought it to the wasted man's lips. "Drink," he whispered. In the jungle, dehydration, more than anything, was often the factor between life and death. He squeezed the sponge and dribbled water across the man's cracked lips. Like a babe suckling at his mother's teat, the stranger responded to the water. He slurped the